Hey, if you stutter or stammer, and if you want to speak fluently, this video is for you. Stay tuned. From a medical perspective, fluency is a quality, a criterion of a healthy, normal speaking. But at the same time, you've probably already heard that fluency is a wrong goal when you're trying to get free from stuttering, because fluency does not represent your speaking. It's just a quality of your speaking, right? The speaking can be very different, resulting with fluency. Fluency, if you wish, is just a shade of your speaking. It's not the meat and bones. It's not the substance of your speaking. So each time we're thinking we are having a goal of fluency, we're thinking about fluency, we're trying to be fluent, we kind of chase that shade. We're chasing pretty much nothing. We forget about the real stuff, the real speaking, what your speaking is consisting of, what it's made of, what it represents, what is inside your speaking. Imagine you want to ask, you want to say, "Where do you live, Mr. Dawson?" So the way you want to say it is normal way. "Where do you live, Mr. Dawson?" So imagine you said fluently, "Where do you live?" And then you're facing Mr. And you know your struggle with So where do you live? So you said fluently, "Where do you live?" but you created the ground, the foundation for your struggle with You might say, "Where do you live, Mr. Where do you live, Mr. Creating struggle for Dawson." You might go fluently with the whole phrase, "Where do you live, Mr. Dawson?" And you might feel like a victory. Wow, I've done it. I said it fluently. What in fact happened is just your stuttering was not revealed. So if we have a goal of stuttering treatment or of your improvement efforts, maybe self-help improvement efforts, if we have fluency as that goal, you will be trying to say that phrase fluently in some way. And you might practice that 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, and you might say it fluently, but you don't change your speaking pattern this way. Your speaking pattern stays the same, and it is impaired. So your stuttering will be revealed, will come up at some point. Because when you start, where do you live? When you start your phrase, your goal is to go through fluently until you have an issue, until you block, until you get stuck, until you feel difficulty. Instead of trying to get through fluently, we want to feel the inner structure of our speaking right from the first sound. Where do you live, Mr. Dawson? It can be one go, one airflow. Where do you live, Mr. Dawson? It can be two airflows, like where do you live, Mr. Dawson? The point is, you want to launch your speaking piece, creating the airflow, and you want to go to the stresses in your speaking piece. You create a feeling that I'm in total control of my speaking piece, of my phrase, and overall, gradually over my speaking. So you're not chasing fluency in this case. You're chasing the right structure, which I call the training speech. And the problem of the training speech is, of course, it doesn't sound like, it doesn't look like a regular normal speaking. And many people say to that, I don't like that because that's not me. I want to be normal like that girl and like that guy. The truth is, I'm telling it again, you're not that guy or that girl. We have stuttering, which means our automated speaking pattern is impaired, and it's a certain state we have right now. We can try to introduce different tricks and techniques, but eventually we don't change our speaking pattern this way. So the training speech that I showed you, well, you might not like the training speech. The other person you're talking to might not quite like it because you're taking your time, you're being yourself, you're not fussing around, you're not trying to satisfy anybody, but your body and mind, your physical memory, your emotional memory, they like the training speech and they need the training speech. If you want to build that confidence in your speaking, you want to like this training speech. And some people say, this is not me. Yes, this is not you. But that me is your stuttering speaking pattern. That's what you have. That me is a very vague concept. I mean, what is me? Is there any room for a personal change at all? It's really hard to imagine how our responses to different situations and environments, how much are they automated? But yet, there is some room for change. The thing is, taking that phrase that we played with, when you say, where do you live? You see, you already know that you struggle with m, you struggle with d. So you know that you will get stuck either at m or at d. You actually anticipate it. So you want to go kind of fluently before that. Where to live? Where to live? But you have that certainty that you will get stuck at some point. Now imagine with the training speech, what you're having is certainty that you won't get stuck. Where do you live, Mr. Dawson? Or where do you live, Mr. Dawson? In one go or in two goes. So if you're using your training speech pretty consistently, you're gradually build a different feeling behind the very act of speaking. And if you remove that anxiety, that stuttering fear, that anticipation of stuttering, well, we cannot change our genes, our physical structure, but we can change how we feel about speaking dramatically. So coming back to the goal of the stuttering treatment, if fluency is not the goal, what should be the goal or goals of the stuttering treatment then? My take on that is that we need to focus on two things. The first one, well, let's call it acceptance. When we try to be fluent, we try to hide our stuttering. We try to hide our self right now, because right now we stutter. We do. As long as you hide it, as long as you suppress it, as long as you try to be normal, you will never be able to get to the training speech in the first place, because training speech means that you say that I do stutter and I'm trying to improve. Each time we're trying to be normal, like that guy, like that girl, we give up our open approach, our ability to use the training speech. You can't use the training speech if you're trying to hide it, right? So the initial point is the acceptance. And there are different roads. I mean, there could be acceptance as I stutter, so what? I don't want to change, I don't want to do anything about it, that's normal, that's fine, that's okay. And yes, it's okay, But there is another way which I'm preaching about, is that I stutter, it's okay, but I'm trying to improve. I'm trying to change my speaking pattern and how I feel about my speaking. So acceptance in terms of like total acceptance and acceptance in terms of what I'm trying to say, they're stemming from the same root. They go different ways, but the initial idea is pretty much the same. And it comes to your self-esteem. How do you feel about yourself? Using your training speech, you start to build your self-esteem because you're saying it on your terms, the way you really feel, you really mean. So you can think about real expression, real connection with the person. Giving yourself time to really ask it the way you want. Where do you live, Mr. Dawson? Where do you live, Mr. Dawson? Or where do you live, Mr. Dawson? So there are hundreds of ways how to say it, but the one thing we want to feel is the confidence you're in control. Once you have that confidence, you can be really present and you can really mean something. You can really connect on a different level. You're not chasing fluency in this case, because right now what we have is desire to go through it fluently. Where do you live? Mr. Dawson, right? We want to get through it somehow. We don't think much about how we really want to say it. What is the feeling? What is the true meaning that we want to put there? What's the intonation? What's the emotion that we want to put there? So once we go with the training speech, we have that ability to put substance in our speaking. So instead of trying to be normal, that's my big suggestion, you try to be you. You try to be yourself. You try to really be present the way you are. And that's what you can do when you have a certain room that we create with our training speech. Without that room, the only goal that we're having is to get through fluently, normally, somehow. So I'm preaching about two goals. One is your self-esteem and acceptance. Acceptance that it's fine that I stutter, it's fine that I'm trying to improve my speech, it's fine that I'm being just me here, trying to feel, trying to connect, trying to be present, rather than trying to speak fluently, to get through it, rather than trying to satisfy somebody's expectations about me, trying to satisfy my fear, because most expectations, they're coming from here, not from other people. So the first goal is acceptance and self-esteem, building your self-esteem. And the second goal is building the confidence with your training speech, restoring the inner structure of your speaking. Injecting relaxation, power, expression, and overall confidence that I'm in control of my speaking. Launching the speaking piece and going with that confidence through the speaking piece you're saying. Launching the next one and the next one. Feeling that your speaking is not a chaos consisting of hard words and sounds and you're trying to escape those. It's a structured way of saying what you feel and what you think. And if you don't have something to say, you just take your time. And it's just a way to connect with the other person. Once we have that room, once we stop worrying and fearing of and trying to kind of get that fluency, once we stop worrying about that. Once we have that room of confidence, once we have that box where we can feel that confidence, then we can really connect with the other person. Then we can really feel something. Then we can really mean and think much more freely and actually improve the communication, because our ability to receive the information, to receive other people's feelings and thoughts is reduced by our worrying and constant thinking about the fluency stuff. How will I get through it? How will I say it? So it really doesn't let us be present and truly receive and understand what the other person means. And of course, it doesn't let us connect to give feedback in the way that we do want to do. So, chasing fluency, trying to get through your speaking fluently with your current speaking pattern, trying to implement some tricks and techniques to your current speaking pattern. I believe all that is a wrong goal. It reinforces your belief that there is nothing you can do with your stuttering. What I want to focus on is building a new speaking pattern. The real inside of your speaking, not the shade of your speaking. It will come, it will be there, but first we need to think about the inner structure, what our speaking really consists of. And in that training speech, we want to feel the confidence through injecting relaxation, injecting power, expression to our speaking. Launching the phrase and feeling how it goes with the phrase in a confident way. And you can't even approach the training speech without first accepting that you stutter, and that's okay. And that you have the ability to improve, to change your speaking pattern, and that's okay too. Once we try to hide it, once we try to be normal, once we try to be like that guy, we shift instantly in a moment to our current speaking pattern, which is stuttering speaking pattern. Don't try to be fluent, don't try to be normal, try to be you. Thank you so much for watching. For more videos, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Head over to freefromstutter.com for more great stuff, and for more interaction, join Free From Stutter Facebook group. See you in the next video.